Welcome to the Old Mac Gang podcast, or OMG for short. It's our podcast, our vodcast, with a panel of longtime Mac Apple users who want to discuss the most relevant apps and services to age-seasoned users. I'm Marty Gensius, an Apple enthusiast. I'm a 67-year-old age-seasoned user who has collected a great group of friends to talk about Apple and the kinds of things that might be interesting to seasoned citizens. Tonight's topic, Peter brought it to the table for us. Entertain me. How do you spend or waste time on your devices? Let's see who we have on the panel today.
Good evening. I'm Bob Wood. I'm here in Tucson. I am a 70-something Mac user and have been around Macs and user groups since the Apple Classic, the Mac Classic, running System 6 point something. Gary?
I'm Gary Shirk. I live in Cleveland, Ohio with Marty and Peter. I'm 87 years old. I'm now running on an extra M4 Mini, thanks to Marty and support from Peter, developer beta 26.
Hey, okay, I'm Chris. I also live in Tucson. I had my 78.0 upgrade today, so I'm officially 78 now. And been around the Mac since 1984 and had a lot of good fortune to work for Apple and do a lot with Apple user groups over the years. And so I'm very appreciative of both and thoroughly enjoy Apple technologies and machines. Peter?
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm 72 and live in Bay Village, Northeast Ohio. Computers and computerized gizmos have given me both joy and a competitive edge when I was a student, and that's a time when they were quite different than they are now. When I was a foundryman, when I was a school teacher, and now that I'm retired. It has been exciting to see their capabilities grow, and I'm eager to see what they will help me do next.
So, as we mentioned, we're going to talk about, I don't like to call them time wasters. I think it's just the way that we can get distracted or get into our devices in such ways. A lot of entertainment we'll hear about tonight, entertainment focused. We have lots of links. And so be prepared for that. The links will be available in the show notes, and you'll be able to find them either on the YouTube version under the show notes or on any podcast version under the show notes. So some of these links sound appealing. You can jump into the show notes, find them, and go check them out. So let's start with our first question. What's the last thing that you binged, and was it worth it? Bob's up first on this one.
My wife and I really like watching Clarkson's Farm on Amazon Prime and just had the fourth season. And we would have binged it had we had it all at once. We had to wait a week for several of the episodes. And I agree with Marty with some of the picks that he has down the line. I'm not going to reveal them now. But the other thing that we like to do is watch videos together.
Mm-hmm.
Gary?
So,
Yeah,
Bob, can you explain Clarkson's Farm? Because that's a new one to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. It stars Jeremy Clarkson. He is a semi-retired TV personality. He was part of the Grand Tour, which is an automotive show that is mostly comedy. And with his money, he bought a farm outside of Oxford, England. And during the run up to COVID, He had his farm manager retired, and he thought about it. He knows nothing about farming, but he likes stuff with motors. And so he figured, well, why don't I run the farm? How hard could it be? First thing he did is he went out and bought a tractor. He ended up with a huge Lamborghini tractor that didn't even fit in his barn. And it just kind of goes on from there. Like, he had to mow some of his fields, and he decided, well, I'll just get some sheep, and the sheep will mow the fields for me. If you haven't watched it, it's on Amazon Prime, and I recommend it to everybody who likes a laugh.
Mm. That's interesting, and I'm grateful too, Bob, that you mentioned it because I never heard of it and was going to ask the same question, and we'll check it out. I think that's really what I like about Bob's always talked about user clubs and groups, but I think what I find as I get older that there's people out there who will share ideas like this, and it continues to allow me and others to grow. So mine, this is another pitch, because I don't binge. I do not. I tried. I have Amazon Prime and Apple TV also plus, and I've tried, but was thinking back. What did I watch a number of years ago that got me really interested? And I used quickly. I will stop Perplexity after I told her all the things that I was missing, and I could ask you guys to try to think about what I watched a number of years ago, but I kind of forgot. But the program was House of Cards. So that was my last binge watching. And then I found out that was from 2013 to 2018. All right, Peter, your turn.
Okay, well, I know that binging evokes the idea of episodic or serialized television, but I binge books, and I've been binging books as long as I can remember. I guess first or second grade, and the only difference is now I binge them on devices. So I'll be both reading with my eyes or listening with my ears. To books. And the reason I do both is because I can't stand to stop. So when I'm in my car or when I'm on a walk, I'm listening. And when I'm sitting at home or with other people, where listening would like sort of disconnect me. Well, I guess I'm disconnected because I'm reading a book, but I'm looking at it on my iPad generally. And the two books I've binged most recently, one is called Playground by Richard Powers. Very interesting. It has a lot about oceans and the sea, has a whole lot about artificial intelligence. And you can get it from Libro FM, which gives you a non DRM'd version to listen to, or you can get it from your library and listen to it on something like Libby. The other thing, which is a binge, is I've read a book called The Verifiers. Again, it's very current. It's about dating online, and it's a detective book. So verifying, is this person who they say they are? And it's one of a series of three books. So I've read the first two, the Verifiers and the Rivals, and I guess we'll have to wait and see when the third book comes out.
Well, I don't typically binge shows either. One of my favorite series was the Isaac Asimov Foundation series on Apple TV. And those are pretty complex. I mean, I'd listen to the audio podcast afterwards to figure out what happened. And I enjoyed Shogun on Hulu. That was a wonderful series. And another series a long time ago, I got started with The Long Way Home motorcycle movies with Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman. When they first started with Long Way Around, because I rode that motorcycle at the time. I had a BMW GS Adventure. And so it was much to my horror when the Adventures proved to be not the right bike for Siberia, but you have to watch the movie for that. Their current one, these guys are still at it all these years later, and is Long Way Home. They're going through Europe, And it's just a lot of fun. The photography in the more recent ones has just been amazing. They added drone footage, and if you haven't seen Long Way Up, which is the one from Tierra del Fuego, Ushuaia, up to LA, it's fantastic. And they go through Patagonia, and the scenery is just spectacular, amazing cinematography, given it was two guys on a motorcycle following them that were doing all the photography. So, but yeah, Long Way Home on Apple TV. Marty?
Mm.
Yeah, I am going to suggest a couple of things. I don't get to binge very often. And something has to really capture me to go on to the next episode right away. And there have been two shows, they've just come out. So I don't even have a full season. I'm up to the point now where I have to wait for the new episode every Friday because they come out every Friday. And I think the first one that I took a look at was Murderbot. And I'm going to play a little bit of the trailer, and hopefully Apple won't sue me. Um, and I'm not sure if you can hear this. Can you hear this, guys?
We're not getting
Okay, so you
sound.
can't hear the audio with it. The audio's not passing through on it. It's an interesting show. It is essentially the story of a robot that has organic kinds of capabilities with it. And with its organic capabilities, it also has the potential for human capabilities. And they have a lot of free time standing around. And what this robot has done is uh, taken and hacked its own system so it's not subservient anymore. It has essentially free will. The problem is, if people really know that, it could be a real problem for the robot. They'll disintegrate it and get rid of it because they don't want robots running around with free will. And it is pretty cool in the sense that the story is really good, actually. And Peter has, of course, read the book. I probably should read the book or listen to the audiobook. But again, it's the opportunity to have free time to do that. Whereas the show is a condensed version, there's some satire in it in terms of it. The robot gets really fascinated with what would be soap opera type science stories. So he's spending a lot of time watching that. There is a cynicism to the whole thing because the robot is talking about kind of how stupid humans are. And so there's some good humor in the process of it. The show is 25 minutes long. Each episode is 25 minutes long. Perfect for me. It means I can squeeze one in, or if you start out, you can binge all of them in a short period of time. And the next question is, when you're on your iPhone, iPad, or Mac, what makes time vanish without you noticing? Bob?
For me, it's probably YouTube. I can watch, I can have YouTube going on one monitor while I'm trying to do something else on the other, and maybe doing it a little bit. One of my kind of things that I'm following, or the things that I aspirational, is I watch several different YouTube channels. A few of them are from England, where people are running up and down the canals and living on what they call narrow boats. And there's a large network of canals in England that were needed they were needed to enable the Industrial Revolution, because they were the superhighways of the day starting in the late 1700s. Now they're really all used for pleasure, and people have these boats that are about 7 feet wide and 10 to 70 feet long. And they live aboard them and they move around England and the other Wales and Scotland. And it just seems so idyllic. I'd love to do that. I'm not sure if at my age I would be able to drive a boat, which I've never really done, pull it over, tie it up, open a lock, get the boat in there, close the lock, raise the level of the water in the lock, open the next other doors and drive out. But it sure seems to be a wonderful way to live. And I'd love to do it, but I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Okay. Peter.
Sure. I'm going to talk about playing games, but it's not the traditional reaction Twitch kind of games that people get really into. I like move based games. So these are ones where you can take your time and really think about a move. And so one that I like and I put in the show notes is called Rook's Move, and it just goes into different puzzles that you can solve on a chessboard with individual pieces. And I put a whole collection of these things because I kind of put them in order. I teach math with some of this stuff, but I just totally get lost in playing the games, playing different situations, imagining myself as a kid, seeing it for the first time, and I can look up and 3 hours have gone by, and so that's what happens for me.
And then you also have puzzles.
Puzzles. Yeah.
Right. So I put a whole collection of these mathematical puzzles. It's from an outfit called the Julia Robinson Math Festival. If you scroll down on that page, you'll see there are many of them. And you can click on any one of them. You'll get the directions on how to play it, as well as some questions to ask yourself as you are playing it. And you'll not only get the satisfaction of solving a puzzle, but you will learn what it's like to be a research mathematician. Without going on a soapbox too long, one of the problems with math in schools is all we teach you is to dribble or to run sprints, and we never let you play an entire game. These puzzles let you play an entire mathematical game. I mean, you may play it well, you may play it terribly, but I think it'll be fun in either case.
Gary.
Yeah. Chocolate Fix, Peter. Chocolate Fix. I put a plug in for Peter. Please check out that Julia Robinson Math Foundation. There's a puzzle out there called Chocolate Fix that of all ages folks can play. And from Peter, I found out about it, and I've shared it with a number of parents with young children. Well, that's a, that's a. But what I end up doing mostly, I think, is I do watch some YouTube videos. I'm hooked on a few channels that interests me. But I enjoy both because today there's so much that's audio video that I can both listen to an article in the paper, Times or Washington Post, and then read along with it. And I'm finding that combination of visual and sound very enjoyable, and I can spend a lot of time listening and reading at the same time. Marty, or
Yeah.
Chris might be next.
Chris, yeah.
Yeah, well, that also reminds me, Gary, that Amazon and several of the audiobook companies have audio, or they have their Kindle books or their online book, and then they have the audio companion, which Amazon does. And so I've got several of those, and it makes it really nice, if anybody hasn't tried this yet, that you can either read or listen or both. And so you could be reading at home and then driving somewhere and listening to it in the car and then getting somewhere else, or maybe, and so it's been a real help for kids with learning challenges to have both the audio and the video going, or the audio and the text going on at the same time. So kudos for all of that. Um, my own kind of quote unquote chocolate fix, if you will, is YouTube Shorts, and these fall into two categories.
Oh, yeah.
You know, classical music from the '60s, Eric Clapton and Mark Knopfler and John Prine, and just later shots of the Beatles and Stones and stuff. I mean, there's just incredible music out there, and a lot of it has been put online now because it's either out of copyright or whatever was holding it back. And people are saying, well, it's in the tank and it's just gonna go away, so I might as well put it up on YouTube. And like the Simon and Garfunkel concert in Central Park, the video quality is astonishing when you figure that those big video cameras that they used then weighed about 70 pounds and they were shoulder mounted. So go figure, right? And the video quality is just incredible. The other thing, the guilty pleasure on this is soccer. And, watching Leo Messi kick these amazing shots and stuff like that. I'm really a sucker for soccer shorts. And there is also a deal where Apple TV Plus has the Major League Soccer MLS franchise, right? Or they've got the subscription rights to it, whatever you call it. But on Sundays they have two free games, and depending upon where you are in the country, there'll be different teams. And when I remember and I tune in, I've actually been kind of amazed at the quality of the soccer. And if you do have any fluency in Spanish, I would recommend that you watch the Spanish feed as well, because it's totally different. And they refer to players as the Uruguayan or the Chilean or the Brazilian, because of course they all know them really well in the Spanish feed. And so it's kind of fun to watch the games in both English and Spanish and see how the two cultures are approaching the sport. So those would be mine.
Well, I think many of you are familiar with my favorite waste of time. And the question was whether you're on your phone, iPad, or Mac, what makes time vanish without you noticing? Well, you know what it is? For me, it's Reddit. And it is a free service you can get. You have to create an account, or you don't. But if you create an account, you can customize it and you can get and sign up and join certain subreddits, which are topics. So there are things like No Stupid Questions, Minecraft, there's a fitness thread. These are just the popular communities, but there are more communities, World of Warcraft. It's not all gaming, though. Um, just all sorts of interesting. There's one on Singapore. There's learning Python if you want to learn how to program. So there are these subreddits, and they kind of scroll through them. So as you join certain of these subreddits, this is one on law that we're showing right now. I could join it, and then I would get that thread whenever it came up. So when you first sign up, you want to look for some threads that you want to see and what you want to do, and then with that, you want to save those communities, and you go back to your own account to see these communities play out. There is different kinds of feeds, like there is a home feed, which is basically everything you've put in. There's a popular feed. There is also a news feed, which picks up news stories. And so it's also a source. Some of this is good and some of it's bad. I got to tell you, it's a lot better than some of the sketchy news feeds that we get on like Facebook and other social media. It does a pretty good job of managing itself without too much controversy or too much trouble. So Reddit is kind of my go-to wasting time. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, the two subreddits that I enjoy immensely are macOS Beta and iOS Beta. And if you're running Apple betas on any of your machines, these are the places to go, because if you put in a question, you might get an answer. And we don't question the source, but a lot of times these answers work. And so they are really good places to go and ask questions about betas and what's working and what's not. And And by the way, be careful of your questions because if you ask bozo questions, you'll be ignored. But it just works that way because of the crowd that inhabits that space. And I won't say more.
Yeah, there are.
There's
I
some
follow the.
well-placed engineers.
Yeah,
Well-placed engineers may be answering your questions.
yeah, I follow, of course, Vision Pro. So I follow that as a subreddit because I do a podcast on it. And frankly, I get a lot of news and a lot of new ideas and a lot of new apps by following those subreddits for what it is. Okay, next question. What's your guilty pleasure app? Be honest, we won't judge. And we start with Peter on this one.
Okay, so I know it's a guilty pleasure, and the app would be a video watching app, so it could be one of several apps. But I know it's guilty because I will only watch these programs if no one is around or if I can shield my screen and wear earbuds. The first series that I'm watching now, I've just finished the first season, and I'm starting the second season of Twin Peaks. And I got to tell you, I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced eggs back when it first was on. And it is really kind of a dreadfully made show, but I can't get away from it. So I'm watching it. I'm going to watch the whole thing. And I'm also going through again, maybe I'm trying to live in the past. I'm a couple seasons into The Man from Uncle. So I'm about halfway through that. And I loved it when I was a kid. It's not that well done, you know. It's really kind of cheesy, but I find it totally enjoyable. And I would be totally embarrassed if somebody was standing behind me and watched 15 minutes of it.
So, Peter, are you a Napoleon Solo or are you a Ilya Kuryakin?
You know, I thought I was a Napoleon Solo guy, but I would say I'm for Ilya. I'm totally an Ilya
Yeah,
Kuryakin guy. Yeah.
yeah, I think so too. All right.
Maybe now that I'm in the old Mac gang, I should be uh, Mr. Waverly.
uh, let's go ahead and go to Bob.
Well, for myself and my wife, we like watching TV together, family time for us in the evenings, and we watch a lot of Amazon Prime, some Apple TV Plus, and one of the things we really like are English mystery shows that can be found on Acorn or BritBox. Those are two British streaming services that we subscribe to. And don't tell anybody, but they really haven't come out with, oh, let's put ads on this stuff, even though you're paying for it. And so
Oh, really?
it's to the point where if we plan to go out to eat, we want to do it early because we want to get back in time to watch a couple of shows before the end of the evening. Somebody
Oh,
likes that. But I think it sounds,
yeah.
Gary sounds like he's
Yes.
chuckling over that one.
Well, the other people I know too that watch stuff on a regular basis, but I don't do that. Actually, I really don't. When you use the word guilty pleasure app, I I don't really, honest Marty, I don't feel guilty about anything. I really listen a lot to Apple Music. I get hooked on an artist and then and I find some of it though on YouTube, as Bob mentioned. But then I just get immersed in the music, and that is one of my pleasures. You know, I'm thinking as we're talking tonight, Marty and Guy, that there's so much. If we call ourselves age seasoned Mac users, there is so much looking back that's available to us right now here where we live I mean, we could use 20 extra time. We could get like in soccer, Chris, we need extra time. That there's so much pleasure really available to us to enjoy.
Okay,
Okay,
so
who's
my way of
next? Chris is next. Yeah.
yeah, my way of smelling the roses. I was fortunate enough to be exposed to languages when I was a kid. I studied French and started in the first grade. That lasted till fourth grade, and then my mom and I moved out to the West Coast, and that stopped until I got to seventh grade. And recently, I got into Duolingo, and I had been taking Spanish in adult ed, and then I started losing my hearing, so that was sort of a problem. But and I just thought Duolingo was a lot of fun, and I used it with my Spanish. And then I learned Russian in the service, so I went back and beefed up my Russian for a while. And then I decided to take a look at French because that was the language I was really exposed to first. And I just been having a ball. I mean, I say some people do crosswords, I do languages. What can I say? But I spend on average about an hour a day. And this July 4th, I will be my 4 year anniversary. And I think my streak is about 1,445 days at this point. And I just really enjoy it. I don't know. I can say more, but maybe that's enough for now.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the case with Duolingo. I think I've signed up for it once or twice, maybe, for a subscription. But I do know this happens with Babbel. Babbel will give like lifetime subscriptions, and it's usually $350, and then they'll cut it down to 180. I bought it one time at 180, figuring someday I'll get around to learning languages. And if you are processing it that much, I mean, I would be spending time on Babbel learning Turkish if I could, if I had the time to do it. But if there are languages or go back and learn German, because I've taken so much German that in my youth and in my school, that actually when Apple came out with the Translate on the new OS 26, where it can do translate, I started speaking German to see if it would translate it properly back to English. And so I still had it, I still had little bits of it. And so I've always thought maybe going back and relearning a language that I'm comfortable with, or learning a new language that could be a little more challenging. So if you're interested, Duolingo is great. Babbel is another one where you might look to see if they have deals that come up with it. Two different kind of processes for learning languages. My guilty pleasure is TCM, Turner Classic Movies. And I call it a guilty pleasure because if you have access to that channel, it's just 24/7 old movies. And I like to have things going in the background and when I'm working. So I keep this, I keep one of my screens generally running with Turner Classic Movies. And, if it is a Cary Grant day, I'm in heaven because it's all day Cary Grant. And he has just got a persona that's amazing. And so you get certain days that are sometimes dedicated to certain artists or directors. So if there's a Hitchcock day, I'm in heaven too. And that will distract me, and it's my guilty pleasure. But I don't have music playing in the background when I'm working. I don't. I can't have anything that I have to pay too much attention to, but I like to have something other than silence going on. And for me, the guilty pleasure is Turner Classic Movies. All right. So those are our guilty pleasures. Again, all of these will be linked in the show notes, so you can get to the show notes on either the video portion of the program or on the audio portion through your podcast server. You can find the links to some of these. But we're into a quick tip. So we'll run through this and then call it a show, I think. So Bob, what's your quick tip?
Well, I found that myself, my wife, and people of our age tend to have a lot of things going on in their calendar. And so many of them are doctor visits, clinic visits, this health related, that health related thing. And I found that if I um, have an appointment with Dr. Jones on my calendar, if I put a Red Cross or a little ambulance or a little emoji of a doctor with a um, something around his neck to listen to your heart, it helps me pick those out on the calendar more easily. And I think that it could help you too. For example, I have a dentist appointment on Monday. And so it says Madeira Dental, and before it, there's an emoji of a tooth.
Hmm.
Cool. Peter.
Yeah, if you're a person who, like a lot of people, get on Zoom meetings or Teams or whatever meetings, conferencing you do, and you think you don't look as gorgeous or as handsome as you do in real life, my suggestion is to use your iPhone as your webcam. You can mount your iPhone to a tripod and you can adjust the angle a little easier. The cameras are so much better than cameras in laptops or in monitors that you're bound to look a lot better and you're bound to have a lot more possibilities for adjusting your camera. I linked a video from MacMost that goes into doing it. You need to have an operating system that's like within the last couple years, and you need to have a hardware that's within the last 4 or 5 years. And even if you have older stuff than that, you probably can figure a way to hook it up with a wire and still make it work with most software like Zoom or Teams or something like that. So that would be my suggestion. You can also change the camera and make it a roving camera around your room, or mount it on a tripod above your desk and have it be a desk cam. So it gives you a lot of flexibility.
Gary.
Well, too, Peter, you can use it to take it out on a Zoom or show people exactly what's going on, and you're not locked into that camera that's on your computer or on your desk. My tip, I almost used it today, is this new feature that's in 26 called hold for a
Hold
phone
assist.
call.
Yeah.
Hold assist. And it says, though, I, I almost used it in the sense today. I made a call because I wanted to find some information. I talked to the receptionist, and she told me that it's okay if I put you on hold for a while. Put you on hold till I check to see if this person's in her office. I said, okay. And it came up on my phone, but I didn't tap the button to try it. I want to try it with somebody, and then test it before I use it where I really don't want to lose the phone call. So that's my tip. Hold
Chris?
assist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've also been using the continuity camera for almost all of our episodes, and there are little brackets that you can get on Amazon that'll hold your camera in place, and you can either connect the wire or not. It is truly a wonderful thing, and it will be much better than your webcam, unless your webcam is like a big camera, like an SLR or mirrorless camera or something, which people were using for a while. So I'm big on that. But my tip for tonight, actually, and I tripped over this completely by accident in the iOS App Store the other day. I was looking for a third party camera, and I tripped over this thing of Adobe's called Project Indigo. And for those of us who've used Lightroom Mobile on the iPhone, it has a camera, but this camera's been pretty wimpy. I mean, it's just very basic and exactly what you'd expect, nothing fancy. And so I've wondered, like, okay, Adobe, you've got all these great engineers. Why don't you come up with a really cool camera? Well, apparently they have. And be prepared for lengthy readmes. There are two ways to approach this camera. You can either just run it on auto, and I think you'll be very pleased with the results. I've run it by several people, and everybody's gotten back to me and said, wow, that's a really cool camera. Or you can dig into the technical parts of it and be prepared. There's some very long readmes in terms of what they're doing. But to make a long story short, what if Adobe got their engineers together who really cared about cameras and photography and made a new ground up camera using technologies from 2025? And you might be surprised. I mean, it's not the perfect camera for everybody. It takes a little while as the pictures develop, but the results are really quite interesting. And I think we will ultimately see a lot of this computational photography coming back into some of the mirrorless cameras. Several of the manufacturers are really already doing that. So, but Project Indigo, it's in the iPhone App Store, and it's free.
Ah, that's even better. My tip is a brief one because I always forget which button I'm supposed to push when I need to restart my phone. And if your phone locks up, you want to do a restart on your phone. And we'll have a link to this, but it's a combination of your volume up button, then your volume down button. At the same time, you're pressing and holding your side button, and that will force any phone that seems to be locked up to reboot. And eventually you'll get the Apple logo. And when you get the Apple logo, you can release the side button, and it'll restart after these steps. So the thing is, when you're in a position where you need to restart your phone, what are you going to do? Look it up on your phone? So it's always been a problem, and I wind up kind of just trying it and trying it and trying it until something works, and it's some combination that I wasn't paying attention to. Well, this tells you what it is, and if you have a better memory than mine, it gives you an opportunity to remember these steps. And because when your phone locks up, and you need to restart it, it's always good to do that. And always look at how many things you have running in the background on the phone too, because that will also cause things to lock up for you. So simple, but we'll have a link to that in the show notes for you to take a look at as a good memory. Anything else for tonight? Yeah, Chris.
Marty, I think the control strip, I can't check this because my phone is the camera right now, but if you bring up the control center on your iPhone, I think in the very upper right corner, there's a very small power button, and you can tap there and it'll take you to the same place.
Okay.
Maybe you can verify that, Peter?
Maybe not now.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure it's there. It's very small, and most of us miss it, but it's in the upper right corner of the top screen in the control center. And so that could be a quick way. Now, assuming your phone isn't locked up and you can't get there, if that's the case, obviously, then you've got to go through the three button sequence. But
Yeah, Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is there. There is a power button at the top,
yep.
and that shows up in Control Center. So, okay. Is that it for the show? That's it for any. Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Well, if your phone is still responsive enough to listen to Sheila, you can ask Sheila, restart iPhone, and she'll restart it for you.
Wow.
Ah, yeah. I think Peter is trying to say something, but we're not picking him up.
What I was just going to say is I had this situation the other day when my phone would respond to nothing, touch, nothing. So I had to look up what you just mentioned, and that did the trick. So
Trick. Yeah. Okay, so we are glad that you joined us for this episode. You can email us at the podtalknetwork@gmail.com. That's a email address we use for, and we encourage you, if there's ideas that you want for the show, just email us at the Pod Talk Network. That's all one word at gmail.com. and that'll get you there. You can also find out about other shows that we do on thepodtalk.net, which is our website that's associated with the show. MacStock 9 is coming up for 3 days in July, July 11th, 12th, and 13th in Northern Illinois at Crystal Lake, very close to Woodstock, hence the name MacStock. But we're going to be at the Crystal Lake Hotel there, and that's where all the activities will occur. You can find out all about MacStock at macstockconferenceandexpo.com. Gary's going to be there. Bob's going to be there. I will be there. And if you can be there, that's great. If you want $50 off, you can just use the code PODTALK50 when you check out, and you'll get $50 taken off the cost of admission to it. We also are going to have streaming video that will be, it's not streaming. It will be video that you can stream of all the presentations. It's called a virtual ticket, and Mike Potter is setting that up. And it usually happens about 30 days after July 11th, 12th, and 13th. And that's a ticket that I know Peter's taken advantage of and Gary's taken advantage of in the past. If you go to the conference, you get that ticket built into your conference price. But if not, you can buy the live stream ticket later on. Bob, you want to add?
Yes, if you need to do the e-ticket for watching it later, you can save 20% with the coupon code TMUG, TMUG 20.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's
I
good.
Marty,
So-
I
Hey,
also
Bob,
heard
what does TMUG stand for, Bob?
Tucson
Tucson
Macintosh
Mac
User Group.
User
Thank you for asking, Chris.
place in Tucson. Marty, I heard with Chuck Joyner and Mike Potter that Mike said if you can only make 1 or 2 days to contact him, and he'd make some arrangements that you could attend. This will be my first MacStock. Thanks, encouragement, Marty. But I also have watched, and Marty, we use Ecamm on this show, and it is really probably the Cadillac, if you whatever you want to call it, of both podcasting and video casting. So there will be, and Marty, you asked a little bit more, this Doc and Katie from Ecamm, and there's a Chuck Joyner interview that perhaps you put in the show notes that give you a flavor not only of what Ecamm will do, but what video casting is available from now in the future. Because I think pretty soon, within a year, it'll all be primarily video casting and on YouTube.
Yeah. They are actually going to have a small side room. Bob's been there. He knows the Acorn Room 1 and Acorn Room 2. Ecamm is going to be sponsoring a like cake and sweet reception for everybody the first night. And then they're going to have their own room, which will be a studio. And the studio will be an opportunity for people to drop in and get training on Ecamm. Ecamm has been a wonderful sponsor for MacStock Conference. Last year they did something with, and they really wanted to do more, and they're really doing more this year in terms of being part of it. I'm excited to go there so I can learn some new tricks and some things that I want to integrate in terms of how to integrate Zoom, because they have a Zoom patch now that you can get people to come in via Zoom, because that's important in terms of bandwidth and what's required. But without drilling too deep on the details, macstockconferenceandexpo.com, just go and look at the website. See who the speakers are going to be, see what the topics are going to be. When you think conference, do you think 1,000 people? That's not this conference. You think about 100, and everybody eats lunch in the same room, and you move from table to table, and it's great fun. If you're going to miss that, then get the virtual ticket and get a discount on the virtual ticket for it and enjoy the show a month later, and then you'll want to come the next year. Let's wrap up this episode. Our next live episode will be on Wednesday, June 25th at 9 p.m. through YouTube, here where you can watch it, youtube.com/@oldmacgang will be live, and you can also pick it up later on when I clean up all the mistakes that we've made on YouTube, and you can also pick up the audio of the show and on any of your podcast services. So share it with your friends. Also share it with your Mac user group. Our music bed is by Philip Gross, Marrakesh, courtesy of the Free Music Archive. For more information about this podcast and others that I do, go to thepodtalk.net. Thanks to the group, Chris, Peter, Bob, and Gary. And thanks for being part of the Old Mac Gang. See you next time.